Welcome to the 1 Minute Apologist. We interview the world's leading apologists to provide credible answers to curious questions.
Chris, as an annihilationist, what would you say to people who are wanting clarification between maybe a Christian's view of annihilationism and a Jehovah's Witness, or maybe an atheist view of annihilation? Is there a difference?
There is, but before that I answer that question, let me turn the tables on the hypothetical objector you're talking about and just point out Mormons, Muslims, the snake wranglers in the Appalachians, the Westboro Baptist Church. These are all people that believe in eternal torment. So if we're going to play the cult card, and I know that's not what you're doing, but if we're going to play the cult card, we're not going to do anybody any favors doing this, because the traditional view suffers just as much from that stigma as ours does. But to directly answer your question, my understanding is that Jehovah's Witnesses believe that a person, when a person dies, that isn't going to, go to the kingdom, whatever, right? They're going to, they're going to cease to exist then. They're going to be annihilated at that point, and they're not going to face judgment after resurrection or anything like that, which is very similar to what an atheist would say. They believe when you're dead, you're gone, that's it. There's nothing after that. As evangelicals, we believe, however, regardless of whether we believe a person's soul continues living on after death or not, one day all the dead, both the saved and the lost, are going to be resurrected, and the lost are going to face judgment, and that judgment will be painful, probably. They'll experience guilt and shame, the terrible realization that they've wasted their life, and on it goes, and then face this experience of destruction that might be painful, the way the electric chair is, or hanging, or whatever, and then they'll be remembered forever in shame and in contempt, knowing before they die that that's how they're going to be remembered forever. This is no pleasant experience, and it doesn't happen at the moment of death. It happens at the resurrection, when they face God in all His glory and realize just how guilty they are and deserving of the punishment that awaits them. And even aside from all of that, what distinguishes us from Jehovah's Witnesses and other cults, Christadelphians, for example, is that we affirm the essentials of the Christian faith: Trinity, the dual nature of Christ, the salvation by grace through faith alone, the authority and infallibility of Scripture, and so forth.
Can you briefly just help us to understand then, what's taking place then in the intermediate state? Somebody dies and they're awaiting a future judgment. We know we've got substantive dualism, we've got different viewpoints. How does that kind of shake out?
So the conditionalist community is mixed. You do have people that hold to a traditional Cartesian dualist view, where the immaterial soul goes on subsisting in the afterlife, in Hades, or the intermediate state, and if they're lost, they'll be suffering some sort of torment akin to what Jesus describes in the story of Lazarus and the rich man in Luke 16, and then eventually gets reunited with bodies at resurrection. But then there's also people that hold to some form of soul sleep, whether we're talking about anthropological materialists, physicalists who believe that human beings are purely physical creatures, or where they believe that the soul goes to sleep until it's resurrected. Either way, this group of conditionalists would say that a person is completely unconscious and doesn't have any sort of life at all until they're resurrected. And of course, that has all sorts of philosophical questions about identity and resurrection and so forth. But either way, both groups of conditionalists within that movement believe in this future resurrection of the dead and judgment and so forth. And that's really what distinguishes us from Jehovah's Witnesses and atheists and things like that.